Hey, Cameron McKenzie here at CameronMCNZ on Twitter. I want to talk to you about Gmail and UiPath, specifically how you can use UiPath to connect to Gmail and loop through all of the different mail messages in your Gmail account. One thing I will say before I start this, you have to do a security setting in Gmail to allow less secure apps to connect, and you probably want to turn off two-factor authentication and phone verification on that Gmail account. Otherwise, you're going to have connectivity problems. But I'll discuss that more as we get on in this tutorial. But that's just a fair warning so you don't hit frustrating errors. And to connect to Gmail within a process, you first need to create a process project. So I'm going to create a new blank process called Gmail Connect. Click the Create button, allow that to come up. And when that's coming up, I'm just going to show you here. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different emails in my Gmail account, and I want to just loop through and get all of the titles. Now, one thing I will mention, if you want this to work, you got to go into your Gmail account and you got to go into the security section of it. So you got to go in, manage your Google account. You have to go into security, and you have to make sure you don't have two-step verification on, or you don't have phone-based sign-in confirmed as well, because these are going to mess up the basic username password authentication. That's not enough. That is not enough. You also have to go in here and turn on less secure apps. If this is off, then a less secure app like UiPath is not going to be able to connect and grab your emails from UiPath. So make sure that that is on and not off. If it is, you're just going to get errors as soon as you start trying to pull messages from Gmail. So just make sure you have done that, otherwise nothing is going to work. Okay, so now I've done that. So once I'm inside of the project window, I'm going to open the main workflow, and I'm going to go down into app integration, and there's no specific Gmail option, but what you do is you choose to use an IMAP mail integration. And I'm just going to take that get IMAP mail messages, drag it on as the activity, and you notice that a number of different properties show up that I have to fill in. So one of which is the email address. Make sure you put it in quotes. If you don't put it in quotes, it'll cause an error. You have to have the password, and this has to be in quotes as well. Now everybody close their eyes because I don't want you to see my password. It's a place where the Great Plains begin, the 100th meridian. So that's my username and password. You have to have the port that you're going to work on. Now this may throw you off. It's actually an integer, so you don't have to have that in quotes. But the server is going to be imap.gmail.com, and that does have to be in quotes. Now, one other thing, by default it says only unread messages, because most people have tens of thousands of emails, and you only want to go through the unread ones. I've only got 6 emails in my email account, so I'm going to deselect that as well. So a lot of people might do this exercise and they don't have any unread messages. You've just seen all your email, you've read all your emails, and so it looks like it doesn't work. For this example, I'm going to turn that off. Now that looks pretty good. Now one thing I haven't done is I haven't held the results of this inside of a variable, and so that output section needs a variable in which I can hold all of the emails as they're pulled from the Gmail account. In order to do that, I go to this variables tab. I create a variable. I'm going to call it email messages. It's actually going to be a type list, so I have to go and browse for type and look for the parameterized generic list, which is under system.collections.generic. And this basically says it's going to be a list of anything. That's what that T means. It means it could be anything, but it's not really going to be anything. It's going to be mail messages, and you want to specify that. And there we go. Mail messages, not female messages. We have mail messages in here. Click OK. And now we've got this variable called email messages created. And so when this IMAP get mail messages runs, we want to hold the results of that in this email messages variable. So that looks good. Now, what do you want to do after you've pulled out these email messages? Well, the world is your oyster. You're only limited by how much UiPath you know. In this case, I just want to prove to you that this works, that that's all you have to do to connect to Gmail. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to print out in a message box what the subject is of each email. So I'm going to come down here into System, grab a dialog box, look for a message box. Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. I first have to loop through all of the emails, and I do that with a control flow element, a for each. And so I add that to the sequence here. Now, so for each email that is in this email messages variable, I want to go in and I want to display what the subject of that email is. Now, one thing I need to do, I need to tighten up this for each loop a little bit, because you'll notice over in the properties, it's got mail messages as the value of the object that we're going to be looping through. But it says the type argument is object, and that's kind of maps back to that T that we saw before with the list. Now, the type argument isn't object. The type argument is mail messages. So I actually want to go in and change that. You may have to browse for mail message. For me, it's available right there, so I'm just going to select it. And this will now allow me to grab access to all of the different properties of the mail message object. And so that looks pretty tight. I'm going to click Control S to save that, just because I like to do that fairly regularly. Now in this body, I want to print out a message box that says the subject title of each email. So I'll go in Systems, Dialog, drag that message box onto the activity. I'm going to do some house cleaning here to make it a little bit easier for you to see everything that's going on. And in here, I'm going to say I want to get that email. Specifically, I want to get the subject. I want to turn that into a string. Click Control S, and all those little kind of warning signs go away. And it looks like I'm done. Now I'm going to connect to Gmail right here. Everything looks good. Everything's in double quotes except for the port. Once I've connected to Gmail, it's going to get all my emails. I'm going to go through each of them and print out the subject of the email. So okay, again, click Save, then click Run. And now it's going to come up, and I should be able to see this message here. Let me see if I can juxtapose that against my email. So there's critical security alert. There's verified order, verified order, verified order. Where are all the narwhals? And then finally, you've got a great handle. And that proves that out. That's how easy it is to connect to Gmail and loop through all of your Gmail email messages. And there you go. That's how you connect to Gmail in UiPath. If you want to learn more, head over to theserverside.com. We've got lots of great content over there. Otherwise, if you want to follow my personal antics, you can follow me on Twitter at CameronMCNZ and subscribe on YouTube.